I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You broke?
My back is broken.
What, a vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
A big shout out to everybody in Riverside. And as a kid, I always wanted to meet Don King. But now I think Don King's a fucking asshole. He's a racist.
No. We're not going down that road.
None bigger than this. Maybe the biggest upset of this decade.
Dile que ese estilo es un fuck you, dile, porque él puede quedar bien con la pelea.
Welcome, everybody, to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. It is me, Sal, Mr. Boxing Guru. Man, there's so much to talk about and only one topic that matters, and it is the Canelo Alvarez defeat that happened over the weekend, man. It saddens so many. It gets other folks so happy, and it's just the great thing about this fight. It creates emotion. But let's talk about it in a bit. First things first, quick housekeeping rules. If you're not following me on YouTube, make sure you do so. If you're not on Spreaker, on Spotify, make sure you guys turn on your notifications. That way you guys know when these podcasts pop up, because they don't happen very often, but when they do, they're bangers. So let's make sure we do that. So let's talk about it. Bivol beats Canelo Alvarez. The surprise look on many, it was there. Look, man, and I'll put myself in there, because I think we had said this, that Bivol was the toughest test out there for Canelo. It was tougher than, Charlo's, tougher than Benavidez. It was tougher than even Golovkin by a bit. It just seemed like that was the winning prize, or that was the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But Canelo decided to do it now. And it was kind of neat. Look, man, that's the thing with fans. You gotta take it, and that's why I always tell people, be a fan of the fucking sport, not of a fighter. To me, it was great, because as a lot of you guys already know, I started making shirts, and I think Canelo represents what I wish more fighters did. I mean, Canelo's the only dude that can sell shirts. I think he has a hell of a fan base behind him, whether it's casual or not. And he comes with a embedded country that's going to support him, or they're going to hate him. But what they're going to do, they're going to talk about him. So that's been all great. But let's talk about the fight for a little bit. Canelo got into the he went into a series of fights. And a lot of people are very critical, especially myself. I've been saying that Canelo's been fighting Euro bums over and over, and he's fighting these guys that look like fucking Goliath next to him, but he's been able to get them out of there, and relatively easy. There's a certain fear that I think he gives, or this aura that he's just invincible. But this showed exactly what we all believe, that I mean, he's just not. But I think to a certain extent, even folks like me, I believe that I know that this was the toughest test. That I know he was going to lose? Fuck no. I didn't think he was going to lose. I thought it was going to be a very close fight where they quite possibly robbed Bivol, and where some of these rounds are going to be very close. But it was just a total, I don't want to call it ass whooping, but it was just a total domination of Saul Canelo Alvarez. I mean, we're talking about from the first round. I remember I started watching it, and I think one of my buddies, Ace of Soka, even called me here comes the Golovkin fans. But the first round happened. I'm like, all right, Canelo starts slow. Okay, round for Bivol. Second round, okay, a little slow. It could have gone either way, but I said, all right, round for Bivol. Third round comes about, and it's still the same shit. And I'm like, I even went on Twitter and said, you know what? Did anybody give this motherfucker a round? Has anybody given Canelo a round? Because I want to make sure I'm not fucking drunk, because I had a couple of beers before that. So I'm like, all right, I haven't given Canelo a round. As a matter of fact, I think I gave him the third. Then the fourth comes along, the fifth, and again, still lopsided rounds. There was a few rounds here and there that went to Canelo, but again, I feel like a lot of them were sympathy rounds where you were like, okay, well, this one we got to give to Canelo. And I think I had about 3 of those. I don't know about you guys, but I had about 3 rounds total that went to Canelo. And again, I just couldn't fucking believe, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, the cynic in me, yes, but again, watching Canelo lose, I mean, like I figured, okay, these guys are going for the biggest monster out there. They know something we don't know. And you guys have seen Bivol. He came in as a monster. He was doing great. He had a lot of great fights. Then he ran into Smith, and he became a bit more tentative with his fights. He began to be a pure boxer, which is cool and all, but you almost felt like he was scared of getting touched. Again, just playing it safe. He didn't care. He didn't care to look good in his fights. He cared about winning his fights. On the contrary, in this one, he took it to Canelo. He didn't let Canelo ever set his pace. Canelo likes to punch after that 1-2 or after that jab through most fighters, and he never let him get off. I think he knew that he set up Canelo to the point where he knew Canelo threw after the first or second shot, so he threw 3 of them, so kind of threw Canelo off his rhythm, and he never really let Canelo, in this. And I think Canelo's been so used to fighting as a fucking bully that he didn't know what to do. There were some weak moments there, like for example when he carried Bivol, that I thought it was very fucking petty, like almost him like saying, "Yeah, I'm fucking better than you," but again, he really wasn't. But at the end of the day, fighters fight, fighters win, fighters lose. And that's the beauty about Mexican fighters, man, or even the Mexican fan base. We don't give a fuck for we give a fuck about good fucking fights. Bivol and Canelo gave us a great fight. Canelo tried his ass off all the way to the last fucking minute. Yes, he was exhausted. That's what Bivol did to him. But never was he just completely like knocked out or did I see him hurt or anything like that. So there's no stock lost between Canelo and between Canelo in general. Canelo, in my opinion, I mean, and you could go and fight Golovkin in September, and I think people will still fucking flock to see him fight. That's the type of fan base he has, and you gotta fucking love that. You gotta fucking respect that. Of course, there's a lot of fucking naysayers that were talking shit, and rightfully so, because if we look at Canelo, and let's talk about Canelo a little bit, because again, I've been very, very critical of him throughout the years. I think him taking these tougher fights, or maybe him even signing up to fight again Bivol and Golovkin, kind of, I mean, you gotta respect him. I respect him, but again, before that, I've always been very critical, and the reason why I've been very critical of him is because of his opposition and and the type of fights that he decided to take. In my opinion, Canelo is built to be at 154 pounds, or the 155-pound division that he made. Canelo decided to go to a bigger weight, but again, Canelo, if you're looking at him as a boxer, anything above 154, he started looking like a fucking bodybuilder, like a wrestler. He looked like again, plain and simple, he looked like I was trying to think about an MMA fighter, but can't remember him. I remember he used to wrestle, but he looked just like him. But he looked like a fucking wrestler. He looks like a bodybuilder. He looks like a miniature version of somebody that's in the WWE. So I don't know. To me, I think I would have loved Canelo to stay at 150, 154. It was a stretch for him to go to 160. I always thought he was too small for Golovkin at 160, but he managed to do it. He managed to look great. He got a taste of 175-ish or 73 when he went and fought Junior. And then he moved back again. Then he went to 168 and whatnot. Even for 168, if you look at the guys that he's fought at 168, I think they've all been much bigger than him. They morphed this guy. But again, that's when I started seeing, okay, you know what, maybe this guy, you know, I know he's trying to manipulate history based on the type of opponents that he's fighting, but I respect it to a certain extent. You know, the Callum Smith. Look, when he fought Callum Smith, I mean, we all knew what was going to happen there. Avni Yildirim, again, that shouldn't even be in there. Billy Joe Saunders, he started fighting these movers, and that's when I was like, okay, well, Canelo could fight a stationary target. He could beat the Kirklands of the world. But can he start fighting, especially as heavy as his legs are, can he start fighting the Billy Joe Saunders, the Caleb Plants, and how would he eventually do? Especially these guys are bigger, they're movers, but again, they're that much big, and he did fucking great. So it's almost, I feel like, even myself, I believe the hype. Like Caleb Plant, I'm sorry, I don't know who thinks he's great, but he was just part of the puzzle, part of the ending puzzle to become an undisputed champion. Caleb Plant to me is a Paulie Malignaggi of 140, the guy everybody ran through at 147 to get a belt. Somehow, some way, Paulie Malignaggi always found his way into a belt. That's what I think Caleb Plant is. He's just that stepping stone that you go through, and that's exactly what happened. Again, and then when he fought a guy like Sergey Kovalev, that's naturally bigger dude. Yes, he fought him. He fought him at 175. Yes, there was a rehydration clause, but again, it's almost like there was always sort of like when Floyd was fighting. There was always some sort of like asterisk, you know, like there's always a question mark to how they won. You know, Floyd always picked the fighter that was already damaged by a certain fighter. Remember, Floyd didn't fight. Not only beat, he didn't fight Manny Pacquiao until Manny Pacquiao was pretty much. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Manny Pacquiao was already fucking ruined. That's after Marquez put his ass to sleep, and not knocked him down, put his ass to fucking sleep. Till then, Floyd decided to fight him. But again, that's a whole other topic. So that's what I think about Canelo and the story. I think his handlers, his matchmakers around him, his promoter around him, they know what type of fighter he is. Yes, he was a great fighter, but they also know what type of commodity he is. He sold tickets. He brought a lot of weight to the negotiation table, especially towards their stables. Like, for example, look who the fuck Golden Boy is now. Look where the fuck Golden Boy was with Canelo. With Canelo in their pocket, they were able to negotiate many more deals under the DAZN umbrella or HBO umbrella, wherever the fuck they were, even ESPN. Now it's like, you know, even with the DAZN platform, I mean, Eddie Hearn's still getting most of the fucking money, even if Golden Boy has a solid talent. So that's why they protected him so much. That's what you saw, and that's what I think to I don't want to call myself a purist, but again, just natural fucking boxing fan that knows a little bit. That's why I would get so pissed when I would say, okay, a guy that's supposed to be at 160 or 155, in my opinion, is fighting fucking Amir Khan, is fighting Josecito Lopez, and not at their weight, but at a higher weight, bringing him up in weight. Is fighting Ricky Hatton's fucking Mongoloid brother. Is fighting a fucking the ghost of Kirkland. So you always kind of held that against a Canelo. You fought baby Cotto, and then you fought Cotto, and Cotto was a fucking grandfather, and you still couldn't knock him out. So you're fighting all these has-been fucking fighters, and in a way, again, I understand because they're protecting their investment, and I'm talking about Golden Boy here. But again, they created a great fucking monster. They created a great fighter. But again, you see all these shit fights, and then you see Chavez Jr. go through his fucking monsters, and then they want to fight Chavez Jr. at a catch weight, 175. Then when we finally say, okay, he's going to be the real shit, he goes and fights Golovkin. Fight of his fucking life. Not the Floyd fight, because the Floyd fight was just Floyd, staying away from him. And, Floyd didn't really do shit, but, he fucking scratched him and slapped him around. But again, there was really nothing done to Canelo. It was a Golovkin fight, the first Golovkin fight that I think Golovkin won. Then the second one. Then the performance enhancement allegations. Then Canelo decides to go up in weight, and yes, he's going up in weight versus the Yield Dreams or whatever the fuck his name, the Leon Smith, and it looks like he's going to fight versus everybody from Game of Thrones, and again, yes, they're bigger. Yeah, you look at them and they're much bigger than him, but they're also, the skill level is nowhere near him. I've always said he's fighting his European bums. But again, I think even me, and I think most of us did, because obviously the fucking odds were for Canelo to win this fight, but we started believing the fucking hype. And then he goes and fights a legitimate 175-pound fighter in Bivol. Again, Bivol should have been the last one they fought, but they believed their own fucking hype. And they fought him, and they lost. Again, I'm not mad at the loss. I'm not going to say I'm glad at the loss either, but I'm glad that he decided to finally challenge himself. This whole deal with Canelo has never been about fighting the best. It's been about fighting for a belt. The only difference this time, the belt holder was a real champion, not a paper one. It wasn't a swag boy and fucking Caleb Plant. It wasn't Billy Joe Saunders and his fucking Mary Poppins sounding ass. It was a legitimate fucking champion. A Russian champion. A guy that has no fucking emotions, just like the guys, just like Drago in the fucking movies. He's a legit guy. All he comes to do is win. He wasn't overly impressed by the whole shenanigans, the whole, walkout. He didn't care. All he cared was about beating Canelo. And he said it himself. Look, everybody treats him like this and that, but at the end of the day, he's a man. You have to agree with him. All he did was fight another man, smaller man, medicated man. And do not give me that bullshit about Canelo wasn't a fucking vegan. That motherfucker is huge. There's nothing vegan about that son of a bitch. That motherfucker, you see his fucking neck is thicker than Mike Tyson's. I'm not buying that bullshit. But again, it was a great fight. Look, man, this is when boxing fucking shines. When boxing is predictable, it gets it's boring. Yeah, we see a guy that won. Great, you're supposed to win. I was excited about the Canelo fight just because, again, it's fucking Canelo. I wanted to eat some ceviche. I wanted to throw something on the grill. I wanted to, open a couple of beers, and I did that. He didn't win, but fuck, again, remember, you got to be a fan of boxing before you're a fan of a fucking man. Kudos to Bivol. I think he did great. One thing I did notice, because social media is a motherfucker. Everybody's quick to talk shit about Canelo. Everybody's quick to, especially, and it surprised me, especially on fighters. I saw Crawford talking about he was number one. The motherfucker hasn't fought anybody with a fucking heartbeat in like fucking 7 years. And don't get me wrong, I really like Crawford. I think he's a pound for pound next best thing next to Canelo. But if we're throwing stones, we got to throw them fucking back. You haven't fought anybody in a long time. Biggest win was Gamboa to a certain extent. We saw the Egas fight, and you beat a guy that was, pretty much retiring. They retired after your fight. So there's nothing that Crawford that's done that deserves even being number one pound for pound. If anything, now it makes you look at Crawford's pound for pound numbers, and you got to throw guys like again, Bivol out there, the Tyson Furies. Usyks of the world. What's this kid? Errol Spence. You have to put those guys' names out there. And you got to start weeding out the rest of the guys. That's who fucking, I mean, and we'll see how Gervonta does. Maybe even, consider tickling somebody's balls down there in the lower end of the pound for pound list. This is something else, man. This is, and again, back to people talking shit about Canelo. I saw a lot of fighters doing it. A lot of folks that you know what? Sometimes I hate fucking Twitter, but it fucking makes me laugh. It seems to be some sort of racial bias towards Canelo because the guy is Mexican, the guy is, I don't know, and all of a sudden he's trash, he's this, blah, the Charlos could beat him. All of a sudden, Benavidez could, Benavidez can't beat shit but his fucking coke dealer. Fight some fucking body. Again, Canelo's daring to fucking do great shit while you guys are there fucking scratching your fucking nuts waiting on Al Heyman fucking monthly fucking allowances. Just fucking bullshit. All right, guys. I think that's it for Canelo. Let's talk about what we got this week, because I think this weekend there is a very busy weekend. We have, who do we have? We have Charlo versus Castaño in here in Southern California. Southern California actually has all three major cards, and that's pretty fucking cool. Let's talk about, let's look what we have here. Let's see, on the 14th. First of all, again, from Los Angeles, we have Jermell Charlo. That's from StubHub. I don't give a fuck what anybody else calls it. That's StubHub. It's not the Punch Bowl. If you call it a punch, I'm gonna punch in your fucking mouth. So we got Jermell Charlo versus Brian Castaño for the WBC 100. What is that? That's the for the WBC 154 pound. This is a legit fucking fight. This is younger Charlo, the Charlo we all love, the Charlo that actually dares to be great. This kid is fucking amazing. Castaño is no slouch either. He took it to him on his last fight. And it looks like he's going to do the same on this one. I think Jermell will do the correct adjustments to try to get rid of him. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets rid of Castaño around mid-fight. I just don't think he has enough. I don't want to say, I hate fucking the word skill, but I just think I don't think he has the right tools to be able to keep Jermell out. I think once Jermell fucking studies you, finds you, now he fought him once before. I think he's going to be able to catch him coming in. So I'm really looking forward to that. And of course, to everybody's favorite PBC guy, which is Jaron Ennis fighting Custio Clayton. I'm not really sure on the opponent, but again, remember the Jaron Ennis show. So really looking forward to that again. This is all on Saturday. Again, that's May 14th on the PBC on Showtime. Again, on May 14th from Ontario. And no, this is not Thompson Boxing. This is going to be on the zone. This is a Golden Boy card here in Ontario, which is pretty close to my house. I think it's about 15 minutes. I probably still won't go because I'm a little pissed off right now. But we have Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez versus Dominic Bozell. Not to be confused with Dominic Brazil, the guy that got starched after fucking calling out Wilder for fucking, looks like 300 fucking months till he got starched in the fucking first round. But anyways, Gilberto Ramirez versus Dominic Bozell, 12-round light heavyweight fight. Again, man, I don't want to talk shit. The great thing about this card is the co-main event. The co-main event is William Cepeda Segura versus Rene Alvarado. Now, Rene Alvarado has about a gazillion fucking lost fights, but you know what? Rene Alvarado is one tough motherfucker. And this is when Golden Boy actually does great matchmaking. Again, I mentioned this very, 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 as soon as this fight got made, Cepeda is the guy to watch. Rene is obviously, he's being brought to lose. He's not the guy that they want to win, but he's going to give him just enough fight for Cepeda to win. I think Cepeda is one of those guys that you really have to be careful with. You have to match him right, but you also have to keep him the fuck away from Ryan Garcia, because Cepeda seems to be that fucking guy. And after that, I don't think they have shit else on the card, so it's kind of hard to talk about fights when they're not even on ESPN. Also, from Inglewood, California, in the Forum, Thriller, also known as Golden Boy 2.0, is having their first, well, not their first, but their biggest event that they had in a while, since they had their fucking Trump rally when Holyfield got starched. But we got Sergey Kovalev versus Terrell Pulev, and that's the other Pulev's brother. This fight's actually at cruiserweight, which seems fitting for the Crusher. Really looking forward to seeing what version of the Crusher we get. Again, last time we saw him get knocked out by Canelo. But remember, on that fight, Kovalev was winning most of that fight, at least in my opinion. I don't know about the official scorecards, but in my opinion, he was losing. Canelo was losing most of the fight till Canelo finally caught him. Remember, this fight also happened very short after Kovalev nearly lost versus Anthony Yard, and he had to go back right into training because he wanted that Canelo fight. He was weight drained, he was overworked, no rest, and therefore got his ass knocked out. Looking forward to see what Kovalev does at his, what I think should be his natural weight, which is at 100. What is cruiserweight? 199 and below. So hopefully he does well. I'm sure he's going to fill out the weight pretty good. He's a little older, but that pop never goes. I just don't know where it fucking was versus Canelo. On that same undercard, we got Kubra Pulev. I think the brother's gonna fight Jarris Forrest again. Don't care. Evan Holyfield, that's a kid that I'm really looking forward to. And speaking of kids of fighters, we got like the 37 Vargas is fighting. Fernando Vargas Jr. is fighting Terrence Jarman again. If you guys don't know, Fernando Vargas Jr. is probably the worst one of the bunch. You got Amado Vargas, nice kid, and Emiliano Vargas. I think Emiliano is the one you have to look out for. That kid is fucking sharp. Emiliano and Amado, the junior, not so much. He's like fucking 40, and he's still fighting 6 rounders. So the younger two is the ones to watch, and I wish they would flip them and make Fernando Jr. the opening bout. And yeah, that looks like it's pretty much it. Guys, we're going to stop it here. Again, if you guys listen all the way to the end, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Go on YouTube. Do whatever you want. Again, thank you for listening to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Thank you, and hasta luego.